won't. Right. My personal view on punk rock is that it's nauseating, disgusting, degrading, ghastly, sleazy, prurient, voyeuristic, and generally nauseating. I think that just about covers it as far as I'm concerned. I think most of these groups would be vastly improved by sudden death. The worst of the punk rock groups, I suppose, currently are the Sex Pistols. They are unbelievably nauseating. They are the antithesis of humankind. I would like to see somebody dig a very, very large, exceedingly deep hole and drop the whole bloody lot down it. You know, I think the whole world would be vastly improved by their total and utter non-existence.
I've been accused over the years of selling out or nonsense like that. Well, now, quite frankly, boys and girls, if I was in this business for the money, I would have taken the easy way a long time ago. It's tough out here in the wilderness, but it suits me. I could be chucking out rehashed versions of Sex Pistol ditties till the cows come home, but it would be thoroughly unenjoyable. I don't want to be a Mick Jagger figure. I don't want to look ridiculous at 40. But it's all right to look ridiculous at 30.
The one thing that punk never wanted to be was nostalgic. And if anyone looks closely at the designs and the feelings behind punk, they can realise that it is not at all linked with nostalgia. And it's a bit sad that people can't quite view it with the excitement of the time. And the only way you can view punk is to try and put yourself into that era and to realise exactly what it was like. It was overnight. It was something that was in history an extremely short period of time.
Hello. Hello.
In November 1976, LWT filmed this performance by the Sex Pistols in front of 150 people in a Roman Catholic hall off Leicester Square. Within 3 weeks, the Sex Pistols were headline news, and punk had entered our national consciousness. Over the next year, LWT documented punk in a series of programs that followed its course from a small London cult to a nationwide movement. Tonight, with the help of some classic footage that hasn't been seen for a decade, we look back at the impact of this short, sharp shock, both on the music and some of the individuals who helped to shape it, both now and then.
I don't have any heroes. They're all useless.
In those very early days, what the Pistols managed to represent was outrage at the first waves of economic depression and boredom with the pompous and self-satisfied rock stars of the 60s and 70s.
I don't know, just bored people. Bored out their brains with hippies.
Punk's just been totally castrated, which is what I try to articulate with the whole idea of Sex Pistols castrated. It's just been assimilated, packaged, put into the mainstream of history and neutered, you know.
Are you a bank account kind of person?
I would like to open a bank account, please.
Certainly, sir. Sign this. We need £1 to open the account and a reference, and we'll send you a chequebook in a few days.
Is that it?
Yes.
Great.
Bye. Hello.
Come about a bank account.
No chance, mate.
Well, certainly, sir. Sign this.
Don't believe everything you've heard about opening a bank account. At NatWest, it's a doddle.
A bank account,
Nowadays, banks and even the Daily Express use punks to sell themselves. The punk has become one of Britain's most familiar, almost reassuring images. They're now officially one of London's major tourist attractions. Like wildlife in a Kenyan safari park, everybody knows that they're not the real thing. But who cares? They make a very nice postcard. But in 1977, the original images of punk really were threatening, as fashion entrepreneur Malcolm McLaren demonstrated outside his Kings Road shop.
The fashion end of it was really quite original. Nothing like it had been seen before, especially when you try and bombard the public with Nazi swastikas and rubberware and masks that zip up and whatever, in the light of things like the Cambridge rapist who was known to walk around in these masks. I mean, it was very provocative indeed. And that really set the scene for the music to lay nice and sweetly on top of it. Basically challenging the norm, and it continued to be that way. It does progressively get more and more difficult to challenge that norm, and I think that's probably, when you analyse it really, how punk had its moment, which was very strong, but it becomes increasingly more difficult to challenge what's normal once you've created yourself such a strong image.
The Sex Pistols, seen here in their first ever television appearance in 1977, had been formed by McLaren with the crude but ingenious idea of promoting his and his partner Vivienne Westwood's latest clothes collection. He had cleverly spotted a genuine desire among the young people who frequented his shop for something new, something much more accessible and more dangerous than was available elsewhere. Quite what it was, though, he didn't initially know.
I think the basic idea was to... the basic idea behind the Sex Pistols, to tell you the truth, naive that I must have been at the time, was to actually compete with the Bay City Rollers. Of course, it didn't work out that way, because it kind of, you know, we wrote songs like Anarchy in the UK, which was a whole different ballpark, and I didn't realise at the time what catastrophic effect it was going to have.
Sex Pistols. They held the record business to ransom and swindled £1 million in the process. Pistols. They stuck a safety pin through Her Majesty's nose and turned the national press into an occupied zone.
It was a matter of utilising situations as they arose and just maximising the effect of that situation to make news. And the sleeves, I think, and the posters and all the stuff that I visualised for the Pistols articulated the politics of what we were trying to do.
And what were they?
To shake things up and to have a lot of fun doing it. And to go into battle with the media.
You're sick on stage, you spit at the audience and so on. I mean, how can this be a good example to children?
Well, people are sick everywhere. People are sick and fed up with this country, telling them what to do.
But not getting paid for it.
Pardon?
But not getting paid for putting on that sort of public show.
Well, nor are we. We ain't even being allowed to play.
To try and communicate a belief, and it's really all the Pistols were about, is to get off your arse. You can do things. There's always a way of doing things. And people did. People realised there was a way and a chance of actually doing something in a seemingly hopeless, repressive situation. That was the best side of punk, and it's as relevant today as it ever was.
Once McLaren's team had set the pace, others were quick to join the bandwagon. The Damned from Croydon were early and important punk pioneers. Among the first to get up off their arses and actually do it, they were also the first punk band to release a single, the classic New Rose.
I guess these things have gotta be. I got a new rose, I got it good. Yes, I knew that I always would. I can't stop to mess around. I got a brand new rose in town.
The Damned, Dave really was a gravedigger, I really was a toilet cleaner, Rat really was a floor cleaner, used to walk around with a mop, and Brian James was generally a reprobate.
I got a new rose, I got it good. Yes, I knew that I always would. I can't stop to mess around.
I thought it would last 3 weeks. You know? Being in a sort of raucous, loud chaos band like that, I thought no one would want us. But they did, so I ended up with the name Captain Sensible for the last, 12 years? It's just what you need, isn't it? Captain Sensible when I'm 60 is going to be fun.
These early days provided the media with two lasting images, the punk dance, the pogo, and the unrestrained showering of saliva from enthusiastic audiences onto the performing band, better known as gobbing.
people say, why do you wear that beret and why do you wear those glasses? And I basically wear them because I used to go on stage and get gobbed at quite a lot. And I never liked getting the gob in my eyes because that was a bit of a pain. I mean, I wouldn't mind it going in my mouth and that because you could always sort of regurgitate it and spit it back. But in your eyes, it was like you have to take your hand off your guitar and sort of go like that, you know, sort of thing. But, so I started wearing sunglasses, and I used to wear the hat basically to stop them gobbing on my hair, because there's nothing like going in the dressing room with like sort of, you know, greenies in your ear all over the bloody place. It was like a pain in the butt. The only thing I couldn't stop was them going on the fretboard, because if you get a greenie on the strings, it completely kills the guitar, and you go like that, and it sounds like ding. So you have to go. I developed this thing, and I used to go and clean the fretboard. That was it, you know. I mean, I don't think the Damned could ever complain about that because we invented it. And we used to stand there watching the Sex Pistols, and we used to gob at them. So I suppose we started the whole thing. It's terrible, isn't it? What a claim to fame.
Here we are on TV. What does it mean to me? What does it mean to you?
The better the band, the more the gobbing. The Clash were one band who had to cope with being covered head to foot every night. While the Sex Pistols' message was more complex, the Clash directly confronted the reality of life for thousands of kids who were heading for mundane lives on the factory floor.
The school I went to, right, I mean, there's sort of like, all the kids are supposed to sort of like be factory project, you know, that sort of stuff. And like, the school's sort of built, it's a real sort of depressing school and that. And you go there, you don't learn nothing. All you're sort of like working for is just to go into the factory, which is around the corner, or something like that. And, well, most of the mates I know are all working in the factory.
Although much has been made of lead singer Joe Strummer's public school education, there's no denying that the Clash's performances, as well as their lyrics, struck a chord with punk's growing audience of disaffected kids. The Clash also revelled in close contact with the audience, and for a generation who weren't interested in sitting at the back of Earl's Court, watching musical matchsticks performing indulgent album tracks, this was very intoxicating. All of these bands conveyed a message that was at the very heart of the punk movement. It was, quite simply, that anything is possible. Mark Perry from Deptford was one youngster who acted upon it.
The one thing that brought all things in the premises of punk was that, I mean, people like myself, I'd never thought myself as a journalist, a writer, any sort of artistic career at all. I mean, I was a bank clerk, you know, and I guess punk really showed me that I could go out and do it, you know. I mean, for someone like me, a bank clerk, like a week later to produce a magazine, it's just like, I mean, when I look back now, it's incredible that happened. But that was very much the climate at the time, and people felt they had the power to do anything they had a mind to do, they could go out and do it. I mean, that was what's so really better than the music, really, was that feeling that you could just go out and do it yourself, you know.
Watch it! Don't drop it! Bring it up!
Sniffing Glue, the magazine that Mark set up to reflect punk music, was an overnight success. Unlike established music papers, Mark and his friend Danny Baker were frequently critical of the punk bands and encouraged their readers not to idolise them, but to form one themselves.
You know, anything you do, you've got to have a base, you've got to have one thought going through each of the minds in the movement, and then you break away, which was like, oh, we're all on the dole, we want change. And then it broke away, but it needed that strength, or otherwise you wouldn't have had a Clash, you wouldn't have had a Pistols.
But we've got no pride like this W working class sort of thing, oh, over this way, everyone. If people ain't, I mean, I ain't got any sympathy with people around my way. If they ain't got any idea, you know, what's going on. If they can't be bothered to get out of the office, in fact, we ain't got no sympathy with them. We're not trying to liberate the old generation. We've got no dopey illusions like the hippies having tomorrow. We're all ruling the country. We've got nothing like that. But as long as people in this country are trying to stop us doing what we're doing, and that's the main thing.
I was very much in some sort of into a working class revolution through music, through the media. A general takeover of the media by the punk sort of like people. But obviously, looking back, obviously that wasn't the case. I mean, punk itself was sort of media manipulated, even from the early stages, and it was manipulated by middle-class entrepreneurs rather than working-class gutter snipes like myself, you know.
Perhaps no one epitomised the punk era more than Sid Vicious. Initially, 18-year-old John Ritchie was just another young and angry fan of the Sex Pistols. But within months of the original bass guitarist walking out, Sid had been drafted in as his replacement. Much later on, as the Pistols folded under the pressure of their sudden and troubled stardom, Sid found himself pushed and promoted as a solo star, carrying to new heights the ideas of his creators. He found fame, and if he had lived, perhaps fortune, beyond his wildest dreams. But did he really do it his way?
Sid couldn't play bass. I mean, who gave a shit?
We used to turn him down in the mix.
Yeah. Sometimes we used to turn him off, actually. We'd elastic class all the dials on the amp. He says, "We do that £4." Don't worry, Sid. You don't need to worry about playing bass. You just keep talking to the girls.
He didn't care. That was the thing about him.
And I think the only rule I ever had was the fact that if it didn't annoy anyone, it wasn't worth doing. If it didn't create problems, too, it was also not worth doing. If it didn't have any politics, it was suspect. And from that, it then had to have a lot of style and be sexy to sell.
I really got excited by working in the Pistol situation, because I moved from a situation where I thought agitprop left-wing politics were just becoming like a middle-class indulgence which weren't communicating or getting anywhere. And so we wanted an opportunity to seize a lot from that situation we were working in before and to communicate it on a broad mass front. And the only way, and the best way to effectively do that was to get the Sex Pistols formed and do it that way, and that's what happened.
They had the clothes, they had an extremely astute manager, they had a band of people, myself included, that were working towards their success. The whole thing was a very complete package. I don't know, it's a bit like a comet burning itself out, and I think you couldn't expect it to last very long. You couldn't also, because basically one band was carrying that whole, the whole fashion of punk was carried on the back of one band, and that was the Sex Pistols. And I don't think you'd find that anywhere else in music history, certainly, that one band carried a whole portion of music on its back. It was quite incredible, because nobody else really followed on with such force.
But first, the Sex Pistols and the team behind them had to have their moment of glory. And in the summer of '77, it arrived with their banned, brutal and brilliant single, God Save the Queen. As the Queen celebrated her Silver Jubilee, the images of royalty were twinned around the world with the less-than-regal sentiments of the Pistols. Punk was now exported internationally, but at this very moment it began to fade as a movement of any real substance. By the summer of '77, the success of the Sex Pistols had made punk's public enemy #1. The punk catwalk was the King's Road, which was invaded by rival groups of youths, followed by the police and, of course, the media. Hostilities rapidly ensued. It hadn't taken very long for punk to become a circus. One of those attracted by the instant excitement of punk life was 14-year-old Roger Bullen from Caterham. He became one of punk's short-lived celebrities. Roger was the drummer of a band called Eater, filmed here in the Roxy at the height of their career. Apart from Roger's age, the band were mostly noted for their rather gruesome stage prop, a pig's head.
I don't practice every day. Just sort of, when I do, it's usually for about an hour. But most days I just stay in bed because I get very tired.
What about going to school?
I do that, yeah, I do that sometimes.
How much school have you missed?
It said on my report I had 72 absences. That was just one term.
For me, it was like, I mean, if you can imagine, I was living in Surrey and going to my local comprehensive school, and then suddenly I had gained access to a world which was really like a kind of, it was like an adolescent fantasy world. I could do all the things that I wanted to do. And I was praised for it.
Roger's career had begun with a few tips from the Damned's drummer Rat Scabies and was warmly encouraged by his mum.
Well, when he joined the band, you know, Rat introduced him to the band, you know, got him an audition because he was teaching him to drum. And he said, we've got to choose you a good name. You can't just be ordinary Roger Bullen. You've got to be something outrageous like me, you know, Rat Scabies. So they sat there and looked through the dictionary and he said, degenerate. Yeah, that's good. D, you know, 2 E's, you know, that can be your first name. I said, oh, yeah, that's great. So it's just caught on, you know.
Degenerate's career, however, was not to last for long. There were what you might call musical differences.
I didn't leave. They threw me out.
Why did they throw you out? They said he wasn't good enough.
No, they said I wasn't good enough. But the reason was they were a bunch of wankers.
I mean, there was millions of people that didn't get anywhere you know, that people didn't want to go and see because they weren't quite doing it right. I don't know what it was.
Today, Roger is a social worker, enjoys jazz, and has a problem remembering some of Eata's classic moments, particularly the pig's head.
I don't know about the pig's head. I don't know. I mean, I think it was my idea, but I think things have got very boring. I mean, that was like one of the last things we did at the Roxy. And by that time, I remember that night, like the Millwall came and smashed the place up and sort of beat everybody up, you know. And by that time, you know, I wanted to go back to school and do my O-levels, you know. Anything was better than being involved in something that was straight off the football terraces, you know. You know, I'd lost interest in it by then.
There were many Roger Bullens. For every band that did get a record contract, there were dozens who didn't. This was one, the Bears, from Watford. But who were the really good ones? This was the question that so flummoxed the ageing entrepreneurs of Britain's music industry, as CBS boss Maurice Oberstein explained at the time.
No question, we had to rethink whether we were capable as people to judge what our audience who buy our records wanted.
It confused the music industry to the extent that, I don't know how you feel about my saying, it was sort of throwing shit against the wall. People were signing acts who were 3 days old on the basis they didn't want to miss the latest train. That this must be the last boat off the Titanic, and if they don't get on it now, they're going to be drowned in a new wave of music. Yes, everybody signed whatever moved.
Stop at me. This one's a nice pop song called What Do I Get? 1, 2, 3, 4.
With rare exceptions, Manchester's excellent Buzzcocks being one, punk bands were drawn to the capital to be seen and hopefully signed. Although the spirit of punk had spread throughout the country, bands who only packed in audiences in clubs up north would not have got the now crucial record deal. As the man said, the mountain had to come to Mohammed, and Mohammed was lounging around in the Roxy, waiting for young bands like Hull's Dead Fingers Talk to trundle down the motorway in their transits.
And like, we're in this business to make it. We want to be successful, right? We don't do anything else. And so London's where it's at, without a doubt.
Yeah, playing up there, even though you're getting great responses and fairly good money, is not furthering your career.
The scramble included early punk fans like Susie, now with her own band.
We want a recording contract, but not in the way that we're going to compromise anything that we do, which is very hard.
The Lord did answer Susie's prayers, and she's still making records today.
I think all of a sudden, you know, things started to fragment. Because initially what was strong about it is that everyone was together. And together there was a, you know, it was a sort of a force to be reckoned with. But then the contracts came in and, you know, it's that same old thing, divide and rule. You know the story.
The record industry had turned punk into a hit machine. 19-year-old Marie Elliott, better known as Polystyrene, notched up 3 excellent hit singles with her band X-Ray Specs, but it was all a bit too much and a bit too quick.
Yeah, I felt a lot of pressure because there was pressure from different
all sides, you know. There's like pressure from management and record companies, and then there's pressure from band members, and then there's pressure from, you know, like the audience, in a sense of, you know, you have to make a sort of an artistic compromise, you know, whether you just want to sort of sell records and pander to sort of a particular market, or whether you actually want to really try and do something on a pure level, like pure art. And it's not that, I don't know, it's just a very difficult thing. I think most artists have to come to terms with that. They either decide what, you know, so there's pressure, obviously, there's pressure. And also just the physical pressure of touring and just growing up is a pressure, isn't it, around 21? I mean, there's got so many pressures.
Holly was to leave X-Ray Specs in the late 70s to have a baby and travel to India. She continues to make music today, recording material more suited to her spiritual beliefs.
Maybe punk bands just came together too quickly. The marriage was an instant one rather than one that they had a chance to grow up together. But there are plenty of players out of that period. Mick Jones and BAD is not a bad little band, right? Johnny Rotten is still around making music. It still goes on. I can't ever see black and white, life or death. Punk was good for all of us.
Sex Pistols ended, I formed Public Image Limited, which of course most people thought was a sick joke, and they were deadly wrong for that. I wanted to change my direction completely, not just for farcical reasons, but because I thought it was valid and important to do so. And I'm still doing that. I wave flags for no one. I'm an individual, and I expect to be treated as such. You can respect my words of wisdom, but that's about all. Don't ask me to be a leader. I won't have it.
The Sex Pistols story finally ended, as with so many successful groups, in the High Court, as Lydon, along with Cook and Jones, battled with Malcolm McLaren over the remaining royalties and assets of the group.
You cannot dictate to me. And as I told him then, because yes, he was trying to do that, was I write the songs, I'm the personality, you're just the manager, sod off. And he did, to court, where I won. I was being unfairly treated. He withheld my money. He tried to claim ownership to my name. He ran off with my royalties and publishing. He left me in shtuck with the tax. None of this I could tolerate.
They put a hot wire to my head 'cause of the things I did and said. They made these feelings go away. A model citizen in every way. Your time has come, your second skin. Cost so high, the gain so low. May the road rise with you. May the road rise with you.
How's your relationship with McLaren now? Do you have any sort of relationship at all?
I've never had a relationship with McLaren. I've never liked him and he's never liked me. It will always be that way.
Today, Today, Lydon is back on tour with his current lineup of Pill and has just released his 8th album since the demise of the Pistols. It's called Happy.
I'm not the miserable sod everybody would love to believe me to be. It's just not true.
Another former collaborator of McLaren's who has found success on her own is designer Vivienne Westwood.
I like to work on my own, yeah. But I learned an awful lot from Malcolm. And perhaps, more than anything, I learned the idea of relating to the past always. Malcolm was always interested in the past.
In the past, Vivienne and Malcolm's most famous designs were those for the shop Seditionaries in 1977. They were called Clothes for Heroes and included those famous images of the Queen.
I expect the main heading you could really give them now is distinct from the sex thing. I think you'd have to call them Urban Guerrilla. I think that's the main kind of theme that would make people understand them. They've got touches of primitive things. People who come in my shop, I notice Jordan wear sort of rather tribal makeup sometimes. Things like this are reminiscent of Greek peasant costumes, this little kilt, and like the tartan of this jacket and everything. It's got, I don't know, it's got an old sort of feeling to it, a little bit to do with, I don't know, rather sort of bandits in the countryside, that kind of thing. Something that you might have seen at the Battle of Culloden, something like that.
Today, Vivienne remains at the sharp end of Britain's fashion business, but she no longer sees herself as part of an underground movement attacking the establishment. Her style of clothes and her views on the royal family seem to have gone full circle.
I've always been interested in the idea of the Queen. It's part of my little history as well, because I was involved with the Sex Pistols and the Queen with the safety pin through her lip, and the idea of the Queen's Jubilee and God Save the Queen, which is very anti-monarchy song. And to me, the Queen is not important anymore. I don't have this problem about the Queen. She's there. And to my way of thinking, I think the Queen seems to be the most intelligent of the royal family. I felt it was time to come back to base, to a classical point. My base is England, and I've tried to sum up all that I think is traditional in English fashion, in English culture. And fashion is always a parody, and therefore it has to be slightly theatrical. I have a perversity. I have a kind of inbuilt sort of clock which always reacts against anything orthodox. And I just do feel that that sort of underground fashion has become very orthodox, and this is my reaction to it. And in looking at the figure of the Queen, I actually think that she's probably, apart from anybody who wears these clothes, probably the best dressed woman in England at the moment, simply because she stood still for so long and everything's changed, that by that very fact, she looks unorthodox now because she's stayed still for so long.
While Vivienne's current model, Sarah, sports World's End's new designs, her former assistant, Jordan, has returned to her parents' home in Seaford on the south coast, from which she had commuted during much of her punk era. Today, she breeds and shows Burmese cats.
I suppose if anyone was to ask me, you know, why have I come back to Seaford, I'd just say for a bit of peace and quiet and the sort of fresh air that you get here and the lack of hassle. It's not really copping out. It's just that you can't be a punk forever. I mean, it's for young kids, and it's something that's happened, something that I enjoyed immensely, but it's not something that I don't think even I could recreate, let alone anyone that might like to try and stage the whole affair again today. I was very proud of what happened there, and I was very, I had a real sense of involvement. But I must admit, I'm just as happy here in Seaford, sitting in my back garden with my cat, and taking him to shows and whatever.
For the music industry, it's almost as if punk never happened. With the final demise of The Clash, none of the really influential punk bands had survived. Instead, routine hard rock bands like Sheffield's Def Leppard have become today's money spinners. Meanwhile, the boss of their record company, the very same Maurice Oberstein, recently put an ad in Music Week to celebrate what he believes is the key to his continuing success, his red setter, Charlie.
Charlie, should we tell him what you contributed, that you listened to every record, that you know a compact disc when you hear one? Huh? What do you think of that? The answer is that he represents the same 12 years that I've been managing record companies in the UK. And he knows a good record when he hears one. He doesn't like this record. I don't like Charlie. Wait. I can understand why he doesn't like it, because it's a record of Meridian and it's not on our label. Now, what do you think of this Def Leppard album? Ah, he likes Def Leppard. That's what I use Charlie for.
Despite sounding like a relic from the early 70s, the Leppard's last album shifted an amazing 6 million copies worldwide, CDs included, of course.
How has the music industry changed since then?
For the worst. It's gotten very boring. All we do is make money, we sell millions of records, we record whatever we feel like.
Johnny Rotten. Was he really a hunchback antichrist with green teeth, or just another juvenile Bill Grundy serving time on Virgin Records? Ronnie Biggs, legendary mastermind behind the Great Train Robbery.
Suppose you will ask the famous question, where's all the money?
He never sang for Scotland Yard, but he burst his lungs for the Sex Pistols.
God find the Sex Pistols.
Are you part of the great rock and roll swindle? Risk seeing it and find out.
The film, The Great Rock and Roll Swindle, an imaginative account of the attempt by Malcolm McLaren and his team to destroy the record industry, became a blueprint for many musical entrepreneurs over the last 10 years. Frankie Goes to Hollywood were one such example. Their record company, ZTT, provided them with massive hype and superb production, but their musical impact was short-lived, and their political impact was nil.
What we need is designer violence.
Sieg Sputnik was another similar scam. Former punk Tony James pulled out all the stops in the ingenious packaging and presentation of the band, but their amusing ideas seemed to fade pretty quickly.
You gotta fight for your right to party!
Finally, a watered-down version of punk's postures and newsworthiness returned with America's Beastie Boys. Custard pies and bad language proved to be a pale and pathetic parody of the Pistols' finest moments.
I think a lot of people in very safe positions who hadn't dirtied their hands in punk just sort of took what a very sort of middle-class privileged analysis of what maybe we are trying to articulate it and use it to their advantage to become sort of celebrities and to make vast amounts of money. I mean, it's all turned into something which reflects the politics of what you've got, and that's 10 years of sort of severe right-wing government. Very hard government, very cruel, very uncompassionate government. And I think you've got sort of, on 99% of the work that's produced in terms of sort of pop culture, magazines, records, reflects that mood. There's no room left to be sort of alternative or different.
The cynical sentiments of the Pet Shop Boys seem exactly in tune with the yuppie culture of the late 80s, But perhaps some of the more idealistic strands of punk are still around.
2,000 protesters tried to bring the financial heart of London to a standstill in what they described as a Stop the City demonstration. It centred on the Stock Exchange and the Bank of England and was timed to coincide with the ending of the financial year.
Mark P. is one who believes that demonstrations like this are, in part, due to the legacy of punk.
I think punk was very important into building what we have now, which is, I think, is a very strong alternative culture, both media-wise and politically. I mean, it doesn't have much effect on the power of Thatcher, but I think punk was very important in putting in people's minds the idea, into kids' minds, the idea of revolution, if you want, which still exists now. Whether it ever happened or not, I don't believe it will, but it's still there and people still try their best to achieve that.
That'll do. Rugged. We're off.
We all know that people are controlled wherever you go. There is media when everyone and Paul and Steve, they think that we'll be saved when blacks and whites are equal slaves. Businessmen who are phony and hyped get together to make a hit overnight.